Welcome to Judica County. I'm your host, Cassandra Nicholas, and I'm here with attorney Taylor Scruggs-Smith and attorney Kimberly Lott. We're all attorneys with Whitaker and Hamer, your law firm for life with offices across the state of North Carolina. Today, we want to touch on a specific family law topic that's relevant for a lot of different people, and they have a lot of questions regarding child custody. Could one of you tell me a little bit more about child custody in North Carolina?
Sure. So Kim may have touched on it in one of our other videos as well, but there's two types of custody. So there's legal custody, which gives you the right to make decisions and have access to records. So choosing where the kid gets to go to school, having access to those school records, having the ability to say, yes, I agree to this procedure for my child for medical reasons, or choosing religious activities, extracurricular. That's legal custody. But physical custody is who actually gets time with the child for Christmas or Thanksgiving. How is that being split? Who gets Christmas? Who gets Thanksgiving every year? So those are kind of the two types of custodies we're always talking about.
Are those determined completely separately?
So they're most of the time determined kind of jointly. The court will make a finding of it's proper for either both parents to have joint legal custody and physical, or the court can even say it's proper for one parent to have sole legal and the other person to have, they kind of have joint physical custody. It kind of depends on the evidence that's presented and the circumstances we have in front of us. But the big thing when it comes to child custody is the standard in North Carolina is best interest of the minor child. So what I always like to tell clients is that means it's not about the fact that you and your spouse split. It doesn't even matter if you and your spouse had split because of an affair or something like that. It matters how that affects the minor child. So who's better for the care? Who's been taking care of this kid to school? Who's been taking them to regular doctor's appointments and extracurricular activities? The court looks at the best interest of the minor child.
It's always the court determining that? Do the children have a say in that?
So it's typically always the court, or it's negotiated through a parenting agreement, which is sometimes included in a separation agreement. But kids typically aren't looked to make that decision, because the law is very clear about making sure kids aren't put in the middle. The law does not like that at all. Judges don't like it. Attorneys don't like it. Nobody likes the kid being put in the middle, dragged between the parents. And nobody really wants to force a child to say, oh, at 10, I feel like I need to be with my mom all the time and I don't like dad. Like, you don't want to put a kid in the place where they have to choose a parent, one or over the other. So when it comes to an actual court filing, if it is in court, I think they have to be at age 12 before the court will even consider letting them speak to the matter. And even if they do speak, it's going to be in judges' chambers away from the parents, because they do not want a kid to have that image of being on the stand, your two parents watching you, and you have to say, I don't think one of you is right for me. Like, nobody wants to put a child in that situation and have that image kind of seared into their brain.
That'd be a difficult situation for an adult, much less a child.
Right.
So, when people come to you needing to deal with child custody, are there specific questions they typically ask that you'd like to give any advice on?
Sure. There are a lot of factors that go into child custody, and the courts, and we always speak from what a court would say or what a judge would say, but I do want to emphasize that these matters can be settled out of court, and actually we want these to be settled out of court. I always tell my clients that you don't want someone with a black robe who's heard 5 other cases that day determining what's going to happen with your family. They don't know your family best. So it's really best to try to work this out with lawyers, through mediation, or something of this sort. The factors include the age of the child can depend. If it's an infant and it's been with mom, perhaps the child is still breastfeeding, then there's going to be a lean toward the mother having more custodial time. Mm-hmm. What kind of relationship the child has developed with a certain parent, what the child's needs are, how far apart the parents live. So again, it is in what is in the best interest of the child, not just what the parents want. And the courts aren't going to look at things that what I refer to with a lot of my clients as petty issues. I have had clients who say, well, he doesn't know the exact kind of yogurt that the child eats or doesn't know the exact kind of lotion that the child is supposed to have. The courts are not going to care about that. Courts in general want both parents to have a relationship with the child. In fact, you have a constitutional right as a parent to spend time with your child. So the baseline is going to be both parents being in the child's life to the largest extent possible for whatever's best for the child.
And that can play into how close they live to the child's school. Is it easy to have a week-to-week type situation, or does it have to be every weekend, every other weekend, or something like that because of how the distance is? Courts really consider that. And one thing we always try to tell our clients too is that don't badmouth or criticize the other parent to the child. Judges look on that extremely bad. They're actually, I think almost every judge I've dealt with puts that in their order to say that you will not badmouth the other parent to the child. You will encourage a harmonious relationship. You won't tell the other, like you won't badmouth the parent all the time saying like, oh, they're a horrible father because of this and this and this. Like they make it the duty of both parents to encourage a relationship with the other parent. And I think that's one thing that's very important because I think sometimes in child custody, some of those petty issues do kind of come along, and we understand as attorneys that that's because this could be in a part of a divorce or a messy breakup. So there are other emotions playing in. But the court tries its best, which means we have to, as attorneys, look past all of the messiness of your relationship or however it's ended and look to what's the relationship with the child and what's going to be best for the child at the end of the day.
And I will add to that, I've had many clients who argue with me about that. Well, the child needs to know the truth because their dad did this, or this. And what I always say to my clients is your child should look at their parent through the innocent eyes of a child and not through the bitter eyes of an ex. So the child really should be innocent of all those things and should be free to develop their own relationship with their parent.
I can imagine that does get messy, but it sounds like it's a system that's definitely set up to protect the children.
Yes, because the court will even make you go to custody mediation first. The court really wants to keep you out of court when it comes to child custody. Like, of course, the court is willing to hear all those issues and there are statutes that guide them, but they want the parents to work it out as best as possible because you're more likely to follow something that you worked out versus something a judge had to order you to do. And if a judge has to order it, then you always have to go back to the judge to change it.
Right. And parents need to learn to work together. They're going to have to work together for the rest of the life of their child, honestly, even past the age of 18. So trying to work things out ahead of time when it comes to setting up custody is important to set the stage for being able to work together. There's a mediator that I work with who always tells parents that never underestimate the damage that going to war against the parent of your child can do, because that can cause a lot of damage. And children, they're not dumb. They pick up on things. They recognize things. So trying to work things out as best as you can for your child is always the best.
And I will add, the court is willing to hear you. The court is always willing to hear you. They just try to put in enough things so that you can do your best to work it out and you don't feel like you have to go to a judge to determine all of that. You can work it out between yourselves.
Well, hopefully clients are able to come to you guys and get great advice like this to help them navigate this situation and protect their children to the best of everybody's abilities. We thank you for joining us on this episode of Judica County. If you find yourself in need of legal assistance with child custody or any other area of law, please give us a call at 919-772-7000 or contact us on our website at wh.lawyer. We're Whitaker and Hamer, your law firm for life.